community invite people, different people, to come and speak. We had an event at our spiritual center a couple of years ago. We're due to have another one where we invited different people from the Arizona Interfaith Movement. We had, I don't know, like a lot of different faiths there. I can't remember, 12 or at least. Lots, right? Lots of different faiths there, and we asked some challenging questions, and each person had a few minutes to respond. So I think that we can begin it. Have an interfaith evening, not to try and, bring anyone over to your faith camp, but to really learn and perhaps even, wow, what a concept, learn from each other about how, well, is there something from your faith tradition that might help me be a better person in my faith tradition, and then spread that out to the community. And it is happening around the world. Interfaith isn't just here in Arizona, although we think we're really awesome here, because we are. But it's really happening around the world, interfaith. So the more that we can get involved, the better.
Yeah, I think that the concept is very simple, of just rising above ourselves and reaching out to others. Its execution is, of course, much more difficult. But I think there's very few people that will argue with the fact that there is only one creator in the universe. We are not worshiping separate gods. And that being the case, then we have to look at all of the spiritual essence that permeates every religion and look at those things that unite us. And not worry about the things that man has added on to those spiritual truths that are in that religion, which is the dogma and ritual and these other things that separate us. And if we will just stop and think about that, then we can rise to that higher level. It can happen. It's just hard.
Deb, were you going to raise a question?
If you don't mind, I'm left a little bit, I don't know the word I want. I think the one gentleman's question about the Holocaust was unanswered. And I don't know if I can answer the question. In our tradition, we talk about changing poison into medicine. And that's one thing I think forgiveness can do. But the idea is this. Instead of wallowing in the poison, we change it to medicine. The way we can do that about the Holocaust is to make sure it never happens again. My particular faith tradition has partnered with the Simon Wiesenthal Center to do their exhibit, The Courage to Remember, in Japanese. It's toured all around Japan. Our community actually went and did the Japanese language version of that exhibit and specifically went around all through Japan. They focused on the diary of Anne Frank and on a Japanese diplomat in Lithuania who freed a lot of the Jews in the Holocaust. I forget the gentleman's name, but it focused on those two things. And I was reading this in a book. It was not written by a member of our community at all. Okay, so this is where I got this information. I didn't even know about it until I read it in that book. But the Wiesenthal Center said it was one of the most powerful things they ever had. That's how we can pay back that atrocity, is to make sure it never happens again. That's at least how I look at it. And I hope that that's a reasonably good answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first of all, I applaud the interfaith getting together, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and that it does bring together people. But I agree with this gentleman that the Holocaust and similar events can't be forgiven. I don't think that any of us have the right to forgive on behalf of the victims of mass or any atrocities such as that, including the Armenian Holocaust, 9/11, and ad infinitum.
Where's the exhibit?
I believe it's in the East Valley JCC down in Rio Mesa. I don't know exactly where it is. You can find out if you want. But it's a worthwhile exhibit. I was there several years ago when I was here for the first time.
East Valley JCC, I think it's a hospital building. It's right between Chandler.
Other comments, questions?
Well, I'll comment on that. Thank you so much for your comment. I really appreciate it. And absolutely, are there people probably right at this very moment plotting to do us harm? It could be possible. Absolutely. And again, I go back to, life is about either living in fear for me, just for me here, or living in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Does it mean that things aren't going to happen? It just means I have a choice. It comes back to a choice for me as to how I get to choose to respond from a place of fear, which I know when I'm in a space of fear because I'm not living the fullness of myself. I'm not living the aliveness. I'm not greeting the other as that namaste, that I recognize the God essence in you. I'm greeting them as someone to be feared. And it doesn't just happen when I'm in that space. It doesn't just happen with one person. I'm usually feeling down about things in general. Can things be forgiven that have already gone before? Or can we forgive on behalf of the victims? Well, the victims really aren't here to forgive. And so then we become, just again, my personal point of view, and with all respect, we become part of perpetuating it, continuing the fear and the things to continue to go on, because no one can actually then ever forgive or see things. And like someone said here, looking for things that may have come out of something. If we think of something like a tapestry, you see a tapestry, and on one side of the tapestry, you see how beautiful it is. You see like, oh, this tapestry looks so lovely. If you take it over onto the other side and you see all the workings out, if any of you have ever done needlepoint, you sometimes take a stitch here and you're like, oh, I don't feel like changing that color thread. I'll just go over here. Oh, no, I don't want to change. There's that color up there. And so the back side, some people are nodding. They're like, yeah, I've been like that, doing a tapestry. So, and the back side of the tapestry doesn't look so neat. But when we look at the whole, we see the emergence of the whole. So as we look at the whole of something, we can begin to maybe look at things from a different viewpoint.
Les, you have a comment? Question?
Yeah, after hearing what this lady here said, Brown, yeah, I agree. And what Dr. Paul said, that it really requires action. So if we want to not see things like the Holocaust or the things that are occurring still today. So one of the things that my church, I represent Scientology here on the board, is that we've done a lot of research in uncovering who perpetrates or promotes the ideas of active cleansing and how they do it and who's behind it. And we have a museum in Los Angeles that people can go through to see where the whole history of that came from, or you can watch it on the internet, and then exposing that to the light of the day and the truth, so the more people that understand where that comes from, then something can be done about it and prevent it. Because otherwise it just keeps going.
Please.
I'm Larry Bell. I'm the director of the Heritage Center where we're at. So I'm really glad to have you all here. But I just wanted to say, I think we're trying to talk about two different things with forgiveness here. One is personal forgiveness of the wrong done to us, to myself. If you do something wrong to me, then it is in my power to forgive you. And in some ways, by forgiving you, I can liberate myself from what you have done to me. Okay? With the Holocaust, I think we're talking about something else, because I forgive you if I'm mistaken, but I don't think any of us are victims of the Holocaust. I don't know that for sure, but at least I'm not.
was talking about forgiving a perpetrator for an act done to a third party, which I don't think is really in our power to do. So it may just be two different discussions.
Thank you. I'm right now working on a litany for my own denomination where we're talking about an act of repentance in relationship to Native Americans and all that has been done to them in this culture. And one concern that I have there is that those of us now living would ask for forgiveness for all those things done to Native Americans by our ancestors and not face into the wrongs continuing to be done to natives in this country and around the world for that matter. And therefore, in my tradition, repentance is not merely saying I'm sorry and I'd like for it to be okay. Repentance means turn around and go in the opposite direction. And I guess I share your concern about asking for forgiveness, asking victims to forgive who were so subjected to such unspeakable evil on the one hand. And then the question really is, what do we do when those continuing kinds of evils exist that even if it's only in complicity, we participate in it? And then the question becomes, how do we turn around and participate in the turning of that around? Well, I didn't mean to have the last word. Ann, did you have a comment or two for us before we close today?
Just a very little bit.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, let me first thank our speakers very much.
Well, just a couple of things just to share with you. You're welcome to come out to this table of resources. We have the Holy Days calendars that we developed again for 2012 that have all of the different religious holy days. So if you want to get off of work almost every day of the year, you know, very much and then we have the Golden Rule as presented by different faith traditions. So please come and help yourself to a calendar. We have the flyers that Paul was talking about that have all the events coming up, including the Golden Rule Awards Banquet, which has the honorees listed on the back, and it really is a very heartwarming event that everyone just enjoys so much. We also have a brochure that tells a little bit about the Arizona Interfaith Movement. You're all welcome to become a member. It doesn't cost hardly anything, but then you can become involved and be on a committee and help make this world a better place. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.